We are one of the longest running dialogues, if not the longest in New York City on the arts, mostly on the Lower East Side. Obviously now, because of the pandemic, we've had to do something different, and we meet virtually every Monday. There is more programming coming from the ATOA. This is just a piece of what we're doing. Keep an eye on our website to see what's going on. I want to thank you all for coming. You sort of make these talks exciting by everybody sharing their different artwork, their approaches, or anything that's on your mind. And of course, everybody contributing and responding is a big part of the art world that is missing now when we can't go with friends to look at art, we can't do critiques, and we can't share and talk about our work. So I think we're fulfilling something that's important, and you are making it happen by joining us. We're a 501(c)(3). We're a nonprofit. We don't charge. I want to thank everybody who's donated. In particular, Michael, thank you for your donation. And many have donated. They can look on the website. The information is there. And obviously, it goes to our operating costs and occasionally when we do pay panelists. So welcome, everybody. I also want to thank our board members that are here, and Sophia, our intern, who's from far away and always doing the work behind the scenes for us, as are the rest of our board members. And welcome, everybody. I think I want to start with you, Robin. Is that good today, Robin Halpern?
Yeah, as long as I can, I brought my website up, as long as I can.
Volume is low.
Yeah, I don't know what to do, it's all the way up.
Okay, it'll work. We'll listen. I'm going to leave Sophia to mute people accordingly and then unmute us when she feels it's appropriate for questions. I'd say speak a little louder, that's all, but we'll all listen. We're there, Robin.
Okay. So I have my website on the screen. So if I click, I should click screen share.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so I click screen share. And now I have a white, now it says desktop, whiteboard, iPhone, cable.
Desktop's my guess.
Yeah, but so I clicked it, or let me click share. Okay, allow them to share your desktop. Okay. All right. So anything happening?
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet.
If you're going to like a specific website, sometimes it says desktop, but then sometimes you can also go to Safari. And then if you press Safari or your desktop, you press share, which is on the bottom right.
Well, should I, oh, wait a minute. Security and privacy. Okay. Hopefully it's not a problem. It's my security and privacy thing is coming up. I don't know if there's going to be some sort of block. There's no way to test this out beforehand, so. I don't know if I know how to do it.
You know what, Robin? We'll come back to you. I'll go to sort of an old standard. Michael Krasowitz is here. Michael, are you game to start off for us?
Sure.
Thank you, Michael.
I wasn't ready.
Take your time.
I'll share my Instagram screen.
Take your time. Thank you, Michael.
So I'm still cranking out as many paintings as I can. I think, let's see if I can. This was a piece that it was a painting that I wasn't really happy with. So I went over it and I've been really working on keeping the palette really, really tight, very limited palette, 1 or 2 colors, the complementary color. Again, I never know what I'm going to do until I start drawing it. But what I did was I went to a class on ekphrastic poetry. I don't know if you've ever heard of ekphrastic poetry. It's poetry where you describe what you see. And the origins of it, which is, this woman was a great teacher. The Walt Whitman House has, I live right near the Walt Whitman House, where Walt Whitman was born and lived. And they have all these different programs. They have open mics and things like that. And this poetry was originally designed as a way of describing armor. So people would write poems about the glorious shield or the wonderful sword or something like that. And then it morphed into describing paintings. So the idea is that you look at a Kandinsky and then you describe what you see, basically. And that's ekphrastic, E-K-P-H-R-A-S-T-I-C, ekphrastic poetry. So I started getting into this. This is not this one, but let me see if I can find it here. So what I started doing in the last couple of days is I'm trying to do like small descriptions of what I see in the painting. And this is my new jam, which is kind of interesting. You know, I don't want to tell people what to see. I'm just trying to describe what I think is going on. So this one is these two characters in the bottom left are on a journey and they're passing through this town. And then it's really interesting because when I do that, then the people that look at my stuff are doing their own descriptions. And one guy said that the character on the top left is a judge. And he said that one guy was really interesting. He's a really excellent poet. And he thought that it's kind of like the Canterbury Tales. They're like little stories. I thought that was a really cool compliment. This was yesterday or the day before.
I definitely see the similarity to Kandinsky in what you're doing.
Well, this one, I think, especially. This one today, I thought really had that kind of energy.
Michael, can you tell us the size of your paintings as you show them?
Most of them, everything else is a standard size. These are all 18 by 22 because I try to buy canvas in bulk. I buy cheap canvases in bulks because I do so many paintings. And today, you know, I had this one old painting that I had, it's like been on the wall for 10 years. And today it decided to fall off the wall. And the bottom, I just ripped a tear about this long into it. And it's history. It was very devastating for me. But so I thought of this one. I can't really show you where I'm pointing, but there's in this left third, there's this little Buddha guy. And I thought of this as a meditation, like he's meditating and these are the things that are manifest. And like when he looks at trees and he looks at buildings and looks at rocks, they're forming into these anthropomorphic forms. Anyway, I don't know if you see that at all, but that's what I've been doing. And today I started reading, something said that I should read Milton. So I've been, you know, I've never read it. I know about it, but I've never actually read the language. The guy said the language is like music. If you just read it, it sounds just beautiful, just like music. And then the other thing is this thing. This is, I'll show you 2 seconds because I can't stand my own voice, but this is the painting live thing. And then as I go, I just kind of.
You do an outline.
So I've taken to do that, and that's interesting. In that most people will stay for 2 seconds, and it's like that's okay, but then they'll see it after, and that's what I've noticed. Is like I get frustrated if only 2 people are on, and I'm like, why am I doing this? But then many people will watch it after, and so I guess it's good for that. Should I stop sharing the screen, Barry? Anyway. Oh, and this is did you guys see this thing with my wife?
Yeah,
Yeah, you saw this already. Where I painted the clothing?
yeah.
I showed that. Okay. That's it. That's
Beautiful.
another one.
Very nice, Michael. I was going to ask you how you started your paintings, but by seeing that video, I assume you start with line to block in composition.
Yeah, you know, I basically start like this. Sometimes I'll do washes of color, but I find that this seems to be the best. And I try to stay true to these initial marks. If I started changing it too much, it gets muddy. So, and I wanted to kind of get that clean, intuitive expression. And sometimes I'll try to direct it. You know, sometimes I'll say I'm going to put it in a house or the back of a house, and I'll build kind of a basic framework of an architecture. But most of the time, I don't want to do that because I don't want to constrain it too much.
That one on the top left is beautiful.
This one. Yeah, this one I was pretty happy. I know I don't know about you guys, but it's been really difficult the last couple of weeks, man. It's just starting to. I'm going through the whole "what am I doing this for" thing, and then last night I had this whole like epiphany. Like, it's so important that artists keep creating now, because I think that we're really going to be facing. You know, people need the art. I don't know how to get it in front of people, but I really think that people really need to see it, because we're all going to get a little stir crazy if not, you know. And it's important to share. It's just that it's very hard to get it out into the public.
Has anybody found a method of getting it out there that works?
Well, I think that the old paradigms are kind of, they're going to be chasing whatever happens that's new.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't think that, you know, the old systems are going to really fill the gap of what people need in the arts. I think it's going to come here in this kind of format. I just don't know how to get it from here to there. I'm talking, but I do this thing on Instagram where I'll share in a city, and I'll pick one city, and not this one, a couple before I shared it in Buenos Aires, Argentina. And man, so many people responded. Thousands of people responded. You know, I paid $10 and I put it in front of like 4,000 people.
Wow.
In 2 days. Yeah. In New York, it's not the same. If you pay $10 in New York, you're putting it in front of 800 people. But if you go to Mexico City or Central America, they just put it out in front of everybody. And it's really interesting. Everybody responds. You know, I've got a lot of friends now in Mexico and Argentina that I'm sharing work with, which is kind of interesting.
Very nice. I think today you can get that kind of outreach and touch people around the globe through technology that we really couldn't as artists in the past. And it's always challenging though. There's so many formats to put out, but Instagram and Facebook and everything is so full that there are millions there already. So if you're in Instagram early, you actually could have had an impact and become an influencer. So timing is everything, and there is no easy path to your question, Helene. I don't think there's an easy road. You try everything that you're comfortable with, and you see what works. One of the best networks at the MFA level is the network of your friends. And we all know that as artists, we're always working with our friends. We go to their shows. We help to promote and introduce each other. There's that. There is no golden ticket unless, of course, you're able to go to the events where the curators and the museum directors are. And, you know, you're possibly a donor at a museum. That is a way in. But we all go slow and steady. To your point, it's important to keep creating, Michael. And this time has brought a lot of questions to our minds. But the real question for an artist is always, why do I create? What do I create? Sort of like Gauguin's old question, who am I? Where am I going? What is the importance? It becomes very philosophical. And I think that's good for us as artists to have to ask that. And why is art important today? Why is it always important? Or is it? Even play devil's advocate. In a work of art, I once pushed an artist to make an ugly work of art. It was a great experiment for him. Because to define ugly, you have to define beauty. And of course, his ugly piece was quite beautiful. So challenging thoughts, look at them from both sides. Thanks, Michael. Always interesting. And, you know, that idea of describing through your painting images, words, and thoughts, and not letting that line be a direct statement. Unlike a Richard Prince painting, a joke painting, when the words are there, there's nothing else to get, really. You leave something open in your expression, and that's why people can come see different things, and it could also bring meaning at different times. So I do like that approach myself. Thank you, Michael. Mitch? Yes?
Thanks. Okay, so giving it your art historical perspective that you are so good at doing, Barry. So the other week I was asking Michael, do you consider yourself a modernist? Now you brought up Kandinsky. Now, is Kandinsky considered a modernist?
So like a great artist, like Matisse or Picasso, they've got lots of different periods inside their oeuvre. So Kandinsky is a different artist before the Bauhaus, before 1918. Great artist throughout. I'm usually referring to his earlier work when I think of what I saw in Michael, the improvisations and the compositions from around 1914. Modernism, it's a word that'll have no meaning in 200 years. So yes, everything after the post-impressionists or after the impressionists, to me, is modern.
Okay.
And Klee, of course, few people realize this. Paul Klee could draw like a master when he was young. He chose, like Picasso, to develop another part of his art. And as a result, Klee is unique and different than anybody else. And his imagery is his own poetry. And few realize, unless you see his early work, this guy could draw the same way Picasso or Rembrandt could do as a young kid. He was really talented. Modernism is a wide term. Lots to see under the label. Helene, would you like to share with us next?
I had the honor of being selected as one of the artists for a national show in New Jersey. So this week I was busy shipping the piece out there. Sarah Suzuki, who's the curator of drawings and prints at the Museum of Modern Art, was a jurist, so I feel kind of good about that. And I was just fooling around. I did this series of night skies, so I tried to extend it a little bit. This is the initial piece. These, and also the road theme.
Give us a little bit longer on screen. That's it, a little bit. That's fine, we can see it.
Okay. And I also did this, the light coming through the trees.
Very nice.
And then I did sort of a impressionist view. So, and
What medium is that?
this is acrylic on paper. It was initiated. Yeah, I'm sorry. So I've done works on paper before. I did a whole series of collage on paper and painted over the collage. And this is a small scale work, but I thought I'd just get my ideas and things out there. And then I started this series of drawings of trees, downed trees, which kind of is symbolic of what's going on in a way. And I did some drawings, and now I'm kind of at a midpoint with this painting that I'm doing now. I'll bring this over, let's see what happens. I like the form, and it's going back in my history of, I did a whole series of pastel drawings, and this kind of brought me back into that feeling of kind of the drawn line with the fields of color. So
That's beautiful.
Oh, thanks. So I don't know when to stop. It's at that point where you know that if you push it, it's going to become another painting, something other than what it is at this moment. So I'm sort of contemplating the next step. I have indications where I'm kind of making it a political commentary as well, where I have, as I was walking and seeing these downed residual pieces of bark and tree and branches, I also noticed like the nature around it. So I could comment on the environment and the seasons and things like that. And then I kind of was influenced. There was a Zoom presentation by an artist. I think her name was Mary McClue, something like that. It was sponsored by the Parish Museum. And she does a lot of research of antique imagery. And then she translates all these different images in collage on canvas, and with a million different colors and a million different pieces of paper. So it kind of played it in my mind that the surface was interesting and political, because she had a lot of commentary, did a lot of research. So I kind of incorporating some of the detritus of our society. Well, the New York Times and perhaps an article about water and the environment. And then I discarded a potato chip wrapper. So I'm kind of weaving these thoughts into this painting. So that's what's happening at this end of the woods. Any thoughts about it, or?
Very nice, Helene. I think you hit a point that Michael has said and many have said. When do you stop? It is, you have a verse, you have a good line, you have a good thought, and when you put something else, you invariably cover it, you layer over it, and you know, there's always this question, how much negative space do you leave around your strokes? And there's no simple answer. I will say, as I was taught it, the Impressionists split apart for two reasons. You had those interested in the figure and landscape, and there was a diversion. But the other reason was because they realized their philosophy led to the sketch being a masterpiece. Your energy comes out, you express, and there's no reason to do this large labor of many drawings, which somehow makes it more analytical, but loses the emotion, the flow, and the energy of the work. So that was a reason for the breakup of the Impressionists, sort of a philosophical problem, and it hasn't been resolved today. There is no one answer to what is the way to go. And the more I hear artists talking in this format, I see everyone has to deal with that on their own. And it's very challenging. But that's what we do. And think of it, that's a great question to have to answer. There are other questions. Do I fight a war? There are terrible questions in this world. As artists, we offer great questions. And I think that's what it's about, and not necessarily how we answer them. But any other thoughts?
Yeah, I have a painting over here that I left as the stroke. I'm not showing. I don't know if you can see it over here. This is part of my my series of national parks, and I left it to the stroke and to the initial discovery of what I was.
It almost reads like music. You know, you've got lines, you've got dance. The negative space is large. Whether you read the object, the landscape, or not. Like Kandinsky did not want you to see the boats. He didn't want you to see the landscape. He didn't want you to identify and label an object. He wanted you to get the emotion and the feel. And I think, Michael, in your work, you want the same. And I think, Helene, it comes out in this piece very nicely. And the space goes back and forward. You've got depth, and the depth plays at different spots.
Mhm.
You know what I do is I document every stage. So I have at least a photograph of each stage. And I think that, you know, when is it done? It's like there's a point where you kind of you kind of like where it is, and then you go further, and then you bring it back so that it kind of looks like it did when it was unfinished. You know what I mean? It's like a back and forth thing. Like, you know, because if it's bothering you when you feel like it's not done, then it's something that's still left unsaid there, you know?
Mhm.
And you just got to keep,
That's a good
and if you
one.
go past, that's why I take a picture of it, you have a picture, and then
Mhm.
keep going, and then, you know, you can always pull it back. Or
Okay.
just learn from the experience. And then, you know, that's a big thing. Like with me, it's like, I'm reading a lot of, what's the name? Eckhart Tolle now. And, you know, about letting go of the object and living in the moment and things. So the object itself becomes less important to the act of making the object. You know what I mean? The actual experience, the object itself, it's like the Tibetan monks that destroy the mandalas after they make them. You make it, but you don't hold it, and you let it go. So,
I
so that phase can be, you know, like the act of art can be more of a spiritual exploration for yourself, and then the final object becomes less important. You know, we live in a society where the final object is the most important. We consider that the ultimate expression, but maybe the ultimate expression is the exploration. And that, you know, we don't have to hold, you know, that's what I mean about the paradigm of what's important. You know, we get a gallery, we get success, we get this, we get, you know, all the achievement levels. You know, I was just talking to a young woman today who's like, she was just saying that she had such a miserable time in her 20s, and she just turned 30, and all these, she's had obstacles, and she still wants to achieve. And I said, well, maybe if you let go of the idea of achieving, then you'll be happy. You know, it's this whole self-reflective act. I'm not an artist until I have this, or, you know what I mean? So maybe that, I don't know, I'm just trying to rethink myself, what it is to make work, and what that means, and like, I mean, how to share it and how to think about it in terms of value of it. Anyways, so I go on and on and on. You guys got to tell me when to stop.
That's good, Michael. That was good. I'm going to ask Robin, do you feel ready to try again, or we'll do it next time? Let's see. I think we've got her muted. Let's unmute Robin.
Okay, I'm unmuted. So, Sophie, do you have an Apple a desktop Mac?
I do. I can try to walk you through it.
So it says security and privacy. It says zoom.us .us will not be able to record the contents of your screen until it is quit. But if I quit now, if I quit Zoom, then I'll lose all of you. So I'm not sure of how to do that. So maybe, I don't know what to do. The only other option I have is I don't know if it'll work. I can bring it up on my phone and I can show you. I think there'll be a reflection.
Don't do that. You'll get a loop going. The best thing is go to the bottom where it says share screen.
Yeah.
Green. See, what you're talking about, you're in the wrong thing, Robin. You want to go to the bottom of the main screen. It says share screen. Click on it and then hit like desktop 1. As you notice, you've started it. You're doing it right, Robin, and we see your beautiful
There
dog.
you go.
Robin.
Oh,
My
perfect.
dog, okay, that's not my creation. The photograph is. Okay, so here, good. So now if I click on my website, is that good?
Oh,
that's perfect.
Perfect.
So what I'll do is I'll start with my most recent work. And then, you know, as weeks goes on, I can go back to my older works. You can see the evolution. So I'll just sort of scroll through them. I don't really have a lot of words for my work. My work kind of speaks for itself. But if you have any questions about medium or anything like that, the size should also be indicated on the screen. So So these are all, most of my things are mixed media on canvas. And here's the size. So I'll just move on and you can let me know if you want me to, when you want me to stop. So oil pastel on canvas in mixed media.
Just a little slower with the images.
Okay. So this is acrylic on canvas. This is actually painted over. I started looking at my old works and saying, you know, I'm not attached to that anymore. And I paint over it. For some reason, I love painting over old canvases. I guess because you're not starting with a blank canvas, which is anxiety, you know, producing. So there was something on there. I mean, of course, it looks completely different, but it also prevents me from having to throw away a painting or store paintings that I don't want. Okay, so let's see. This is, most of these are done with pieces of paper, decorative paper, newspaper, and acrylic paint and some charcoal. And working purely abstractly is a shift for me. It was something I did years ago, and then I started getting into figurative work and portraits, which I can show you a different time, but so it's a departure and I've been enjoying it. And unlike Michael, I don't start with anything. I just basically, I kind of just throw the paint on the canvas, and once it's on there, I create from whatever splatters are on there. So, and I don't really have, I usually have no idea what I'm going to do. And there's really no thought that goes in, no conscious thought that goes into it. This is one of my favorites. I like using lettering. So I don't know if, when I point to things, can you see, or you can't really?
We see what's on your screen.
Okay, so like you see the letter RE, and then above that, so that cross hatching, that's paper. So all of the patterns are pieces of paper that I tore up and applied to the canvas.
The abstract expressionists come to mind, but more the European abstract expressionists, whose name I'm not so good with, but given the texture that you get, as
Yeah.
well Rosenquist, and of course Klein and Rothko.
Yeah.
But your texture is more like the Europeans. You do something, I don't know if it's the right word, but it seems a little hairier than the Americans do.
Oh, okay. This is the 40 by 30 has been my limit, my max in terms of size, because I had to have something that fit in my car. That was the criteria, because I would paint in the city and I would need to take the work upstate to where I show in a gallery. So that was the criteria. So that's my max. But now,
in the old days, Robin, it was the size of the suitcase for the art dealer. The size of the suitcase. Remember, the Mona Lisa is a relatively small painting.
right.
That's the way things were done, and they had to be, you know, travel sometimes across the seas to show a queen or a king what the prince or the princess looked like.
Exactly. So this is, I started to get into using, I mean, I usually use tons of color, very vibrant color. And I started to experiment with limiting my palette, you know, changing it and limiting it, which I really, really liked doing. And I liked the results. So I think I would continue to do that. But I also would probably, I'm thinking of shifting to doing some work on paper, because my main issue is not when something's done or when it's, the main issue is where do I store all of my work? that I have no room, everything's stacked up on the floor and I have no room, and it really inhibits my production. It's really, I just don't have the space for things. So anyway, so this is a little smaller painting. And it's too bad because I think a lot of my paintings, my work, they look good in a large size, but they're much more dramatic when I see them in a large size. Even though I do appreciate the smaller pieces. These are small. Okay. So this I can do this quickly. So this is a series of portraits that were done with collage. So I would take a photograph from the newspaper of a face, and then I would completely change that face. It could be a different race. It would be, I mean, it's unrecognizable, but it gives me something to start with. And this one ended up looking like me.
For me, when you incorporate the figure in with your technique and the overlays and the drips and the words,
Yeah.
it somehow creates another layering. I don't know if eerie is the word I'm looking for, but it creates something because we can identify and see, we can identify with the person there, but
Yeah.
she's embedded, sort of embedded with almost dragonfly wings and other things.
Yeah. 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 This is called faulty wiring because it was actually in a fire in my office and it had a lot of smoke damage. And instead of throwing it out, I thought I would just keep scrubbing it and scrubbing it. And I was able to get some of the smoke out, and then I touched it up, and this is what it ended up being. Okay, so this is getting into some of the older stuff.
Robin, how would you characterize the difference between your older work and what you're doing now?
These are real small. Well, as I said before, what I've been doing lately has been more abstract. Prior to that, you know, with no figures at all, no figures, faces. And what I was doing before the completely abstract work was the work I showed you with the faces, the collage.
Okay.
That was about a year or two ago. And before that, oh, okay. So anyway, so that's the end of, yeah, that was a show that I had that was all of those paintings. So I think I want to work on black and white images. I don't know. I'm not sure what I'm going to be heading towards, but that's it. So I can show you the rest another time, other stuff. Okay.
Done like a professional, Robin, like a professional.
I still don't know how I was able to do that. I don't know how that works.
Does Odilon Redon, the artist, somebody you like very much? Robin?
Yeah, some of the portraits kind of resemble, and the colors. Yeah, also my colors have changed over time. I mean, I have a paint, I can't, have a desktop here, so I can't really move it. But I have a paint, I'll show you, I'll just show you quickly. The large painting. This is like very old. This is kind of where I began. I don't know if you can see it. It's probably too big. I can't really put it on the screen.
Cool.
Can you see anything?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, let us see it a little more. Just a little more, Robin. Now there you're going a little more fauve-like.
Beautiful.
Very nice.
So that's my much older work. That was before I used any kind of mixed media. I just used pure oil, or most of those are oil acrylics. So yeah, so that's my introduction.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And any thoughts from the group? Michael?
No, Robin, I kept thinking encaustics when I was looking at your acrylics.
Yeah,
Like I think
I've never
it
done
would be really interesting to work with
Yeah. Yeah.
wax or.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I don't know. I just when I spoke it froze. I don't know if you.
Yeah, it froze. Yeah. Yeah. I've never used encaustics. I have a friend that uses them beautifully, and I have a couple of her pieces, but I've never tried. But yeah, some of them, especially the black and the more monotone one that I showed you, that kind of looks like an encaustic piece.
Yeah, a lot of the fields look like they're kind of a little cloudy, and you can get some really cool depth stuff. I don't know how to do it with acrylic, but in encaustics you can put the layers, and then wax medium too is kind of cool. I think it would be really powerful on the surface of your painting too. Just to kind of something to think about.
Yeah, thank you.
I also
Really,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
so phenomenal. The layers and the abstraction, and especially with the portraits, the collage pieces, just really stunning
Thank you.
work.
Thank you.
Great. Very nice work, Robin. And nice to see everybody share. I'd say, like Michael, you said you approached the limited palette, and often artists do that. Picasso did that in the analytic cubism period, no color, because the color would have pushed and pulled and made it too complicated for him to do. He took color out in the beginning. And so artists do that to restrict and focus on the composition, the push and pull. But you have a lot of colors in yours, Robin, and it's often your color palette. I see it in all the paintings. And I think we all as artists, somehow they're like friends, certain colors, and they do certain roles over and over again in paintings. And your colors are different than Michael's, are different than Jill's, are different than mine. I'm not quite sure where we get it from, but I know we have our own sort of personal color choices.
Yeah, and it's just, with me, it's just intuitive. I mean, I don't really think about it. I just sort of reach for colors. And my friend who's a painter said to me, stop. She goes, you need to change your palette. You've been doing this for years. You need to try to change your palette. Just take the paint away. So I just put some black and white, and I just put that in front of me, and I wouldn't allow myself to use anything else. And it was interesting. I like the result. So.
And that is hard to do. I had an artist tell me the same. And just to introduce purple, I just added one color.
Yeah.
And when he saw me a month later, he's like, you introduced another color. It's very funny. It's very funny. Jill, would you like to go next and share?
Oh, sure. Sorry I came late. I can share, let's see if I can do this. My website. Okay, so This is a double exposure in a film toy camera, a Holga. So toy cameras are plastic cameras, and it allowed me to do some double exposures.
When you do that, you often don't know what is being layered at what point, correct?
Yeah, I mean, I have kind of an idea, but you never really know if it's going to line up. Like in this one, I sort of knew what I wanted, but the accuracy of it falling in this area, it's just totally random. I used to get really frustrated because I would do, when I first started, I would get like one image out of like the whole roll, and then I went to hear someone speak about how they get one good image a roll, so I was like, oh, okay, that's good. But like this one really lined up. Like this is someone in a motorized wheelchair and a umbrella, and it just totally lined up in this guy with the umbrella. So that was, yeah, you don't really know.
Fabulous, really.
And then these are some collages, some photo collages. And these are some older New York City abstractions. This is probably one of the first ones that I did. This was in Hell's Kitchen. I don't know if I can make it smaller. This is from like maybe a year ago, where it's the rain on the cement. This blue one was from a police station. But I was really drawn to the textures. And this is more, these are for my iPhone, actually. But these are construction boards that they paint over the graffiti. But this is, then I started to get, these are more recent abstracts, like in the last couple of years. It's a little hard, I don't know how to make it smaller. Maybe, so that you can see the whole thing. So I like the idea of finding these images, you know, the idea of found objects, but I think things have changed in found objects just over time. But these photo abstractions are sort of these found images, because you used to find different kinds of things on the street, like let's say in the 70s or the 80s, but these are things that I'm finding with my photography. I could show you one more. I have some transfers.
The work seems very poetic, Jill. At times it's minimal, and at other times it's maximal.
Thank you. This is a collage of my friend's legs, and then Man Ray, who's one of my favorite artists. it's a little hard. Just this is actually one image, the lips, and then a statue. This is actually my friend Patty. She's a musician, and so she always loves to pose. And these are from old time magazines or Life magazines.
Zoom.
Yeah.
Disconnected.
This is probably the first, it's a photo transfer that I've done where I use two photos, and then what I do is I use acrylic medium and transfer it onto watercolor paper or canvas. These two, this one and then this one is one of the first ones that I was able to successfully get onto canvas. So, do you want to see more, or?
Sure. Let's see a few more.
Okay. So this is reflections. This is like several years ago. I was really into taking reflections. I think in some ways because I'm a little shy, so it's a little easier to take pictures of people through reflections, and also just windows too. Like this, sort of interactive with the model, and then two people looking at the.
Back.
Oh, they're gonna be knocking. You might want to mute me just because they're clapping outside.
I think it's a nice touch. I think.
Oh,
that's-
okay. Okay.
What's with the photographs?
Okay.
Very nice, Joe.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Really, your work is amazing.
Wow, thanks.
Really, I love all of it. It's just so it's so creative. You have such a creative eye.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Welcome, Emil. I know you just jumped in. Would you like to be the next artist to share and talk about your work? You can use screen share, anything you like. Sound good?
Oh God, I'm mainly like listening in. I don't want to take away from anything. Yeah.
Okay, we actually have run around everyone. If you want to share, go ahead. I'm going to ask Mitch to say a word or two, and then maybe I'll try and share some images from my computer. Keep in mind, we're every Mondays. Come another week if you like. You caught us a little towards the end. Mitch, would you like to say a few words?
Thank you. Thank you.
Sure. I had to switch over to my phone because my audio wasn't working on my laptop. Let me see. How come I'm not seeing anybody else? Let me see. Hold it. I'm just seeing.
We see you. We see you perfectly.
Okay. So anyway, I would like at one time, as far as share my screen, as far as what I do on Instagram, because it's been very important to me. I actually was not on Instagram until a few years ago when we actually had a panel at National Arts Club that Vernita did. And that set me off right away. And I started with doing, because I go to art, I'm not an artist. I go to open studios, I go to art fairs, I go to a lot of things as far as just trying to help artists as far as exposure, etc., and really try to do as far as a lot of hashtags to art consultants, art advisors, that type of thing. So anyway, due to the pandemic and I was furloughed from my job, I started doing a lot more. And I was doing slideshow videos prior to that of going to various art events and connecting it with my Facebook page. They're both called visual arts events. And on the Facebook, I would have all the information about the artist, the everything except for a price. And it tied in very well. And actually, what I decided to do in the last few weeks from Blackout Tuesday was focus on Black artists and say, hey, this is a time where, collectors, advisors, etc., are focusing on Black Lives Matter. Well, let them focus also on Black artists because they are totally underrepresented. So for the last, 17 posts that I've done on a daily basis, I've looked through Instagram and highlighted specific artists. So that's been basically a labor of love for me.
Very nice.
So anyone out there, I can't tap it in, but if you look under visual arts, ARTS events, please follow me and I'll do the same for you. Thanks.
Thanks, Mitch. Thank you very much. And, Mitch is a board member, and, arts is about artists, and it's about collectors, it's about the gallerists, it's about that whole cycle of everyone coming together and supporting each other. And Mitch certainly does a lot and helps a lot of us artists. I want to go to Sophia now, our intern out of Portland, Oregon. Sophia, share with us. Tell us what's been on your mind, what you've been creating, or how things are for you.
I feel like it's been kind of hard to create lately because I feel like art, there's a lot of meaning and charge when you're looking at pieces, and I feel like that, kind of going off of what Mitch was talking about, I feel like I've been trying to be more of an active participant in society as opposed to just making art. But I guess art is also a way to be active. But I haven't really been making as much as I've wanted to lately because I've been protesting a lot and stuff. But I made this piece the other day, and I did get some new paints too, which I'm excited to start. I don't know, I really like anatomy, so I was playing around with some stuff like this. It's ribs and then hip bones, and there's no arms or but I was gonna start painting, which is why I have the tape here, but then I was like, oh, I kind of like this border. It's a little bit provocative, but I feel like a lot of my art is like that, which I'm kind of okay with. But yeah, that's about the main piece I've sort of made this week. Everything else is still sort of in progress. Thanks for letting me share again.
No, of course. I think it is challenging. I remember 9/11, when that happened, I couldn't paint. It didn't seem like I could put my mind, into that channel. It didn't seem right. I know that seems wrong, but it didn't. And then, of course, a little while later, I did. So sometimes events, and we once had an artist talk at one of our talks, and she was like, maybe I just hand out books, good books that say it all. Her art had moved from making objects to doing events and protests to then delivering books and let the people sort of get it. So yeah, there's no one way. There are all different ways, and it is always challenging. And we're asking ourselves, how are we relevant? And then how do we make a statement in times like this? I'll try and do a screen share myself. Let's see if I can do this. And I'll show a little bit. Okay. Let's see if this will work. You let me know when it works, and if it doesn't, I'll bail real quickly. Yeah, I don't think I could do that so easily. So I'll pass on that and I won't hold you up, but I will practice for next time. I want to thank you all. Oh, hold on. I think I got something coming in here.
Share screen?
Let's see. Later. Yeah, I better not because I got a feeling I'll lose everybody. I'll share. I'll do it another time and I'll practice before.
What I noticed is that if you put, let's say, the page that you want to show underneath the Zoom page, that when you share your screen, it'll give that as an option. So like if you go underneath that next browse, the next page underneath the Zoom page, then it'll show that if you want to do that.
You know what? I'll try it one sec because I do appreciate the tech help. Let's see. When I'm doing share screen, it says desktop 1, so I say share.
Yeah.
And then it asks me to open system preferences for security and privacy to grant.
To me. That's what happened to me, but then you told me to go back and try it again, and then I didn't have to deal with the security and privacy.
Yeah.
Are you in the basic window? Like there's 3 sections on the top middle. Do you have it open in Safari?
I don't have it open in Safari. I'm working in Chrome, and I have it in basic.
Can you try opening Chrome through? Like, is there another window below desktop 1?
There is. I'm going to try that. I tried Google Chrome. It says unknown. Let's see. This might do it. Thanks for bearing with us. This is the way we sort of technically group up. I will practice and I will share next time, and I'll make sure I get it right. Artist Talk on Art is about artists talking about art. We learn by sharing, and it's sort of a group effort. I get a lot out of this, and I thank all of you for it. I hope you do too. We're a 501(c)(3). We usually host things in New York City. Obviously now we've gone virtual. Our website's atoanyc.org. Visit our website, ask any questions you like. We're looking to do this every Monday, and hopefully we'll have some other programming too to keep you abreast. You guys make it happen. We'll be here again. I will occasionally have a focused watercolorist doing some work, or maybe a ceramicist, and I'll post that ahead of time, and I'll put it on our website for everyone to see. But thanks so much, everybody.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Take care. See you next week.
See you next week. Thank you,
Bye.
Sophia.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks for coming,
Bye.
Emil.